clicker. And that's not working. That's great. Technology. I know. Hi, everyone. My name is Murewa Olubela. I am the co-founder and chief building officer of MARVL. Unfortunately, my co-founder couldn't make it, Sarah, because she got COVID yesterday. And that is incredible. And so, so today we're going to talk about, how we can integrate AR into the classrooms. I must tell you first and foremost that this would be a bit more educational than more whatever you might have heard. So let's dig into it. Like I said, my name is Murewa, and that's my co-founder, who is not here. Thank you very much. So today I would be sharing insights in how we can use AR in the classrooms and why we think that AR is best suited for education, especially early stage childhood education in particular, because we think that AR can address the challenges that we face in that teachers, educators, and administrators have been facing for a while and can ameliorate the challenges itself. So quickly, the roadmap is just 4 parts. Hopefully, we get them as quick as possible. First, I would be talking about, why AR, right? What's the point of it all, and how it aligns in our classrooms itself. And I would be a bit biased in talking about early education itself, and that's because we focus on K-12 space, so there's that. But also why AR in particular is best suited for that early stage education. And then I would go into why AR is uniquely suited, can't pronounce today, to address some global and also US education needs that we have in education today. I would also focus a bit on equity and efficacy itself, and how AR helps mitigate some challenges in that area. And then I'll talk about what we're building in MARVL, because why not? I have the stadium, so I can do that. So why AR, right? Why not anything else in the world that you can do and use, and why are we focusing on education itself? We are very research-based in our company, and so research has shown that kids' brain, whenever they're younger, it's a lot different than adults' brain. It's a very critical stage for learning in comparison to even older kids or early education itself. And even if you don't think about research itself, if you think about the way people talk in general, they'll tell you that if you want somebody to learn a new language, have them learn when they're younger. If you want to learn a piano, it's easier when you're younger to learn the piano than when you're older itself. So we know this. We know that the brain is wonderful, especially in the young ways. It's more malleable itself. So that's why we do focus on that. And this is one of those early touch points in education that kind of determines where a kid goes and their future trajectory in itself. We also know that younger kids have heightened sensitive reception to information and stimuli itself, and we also know that they need what's called participatory sensory learning processes. And what this means in general is they need activities that ground them in a physical environment, things that they can pinpoint, objects in their environment that they can pinpoint learning to, so that they can use it as a pathway to remembering once they stop learning into it. And AR helps with that, right? And also, we know that AR provides the physical, real-world learning environment into it. So AR, as you know, superimposes the virtual world over the physical world. So kids are still grounded, and they're surrounding itself, and it's not as if they're going putting on a headset and going into a virtual world itself. And there's also one thing that educators like to talk about, and that's manipulables, is anything that you can touch or move or anything that you can do your hands, make bigger, increase that. That also helps create pathways to learning once you stop learning itself. And AR does this, right? It does this very much more because that's how AR is built, right? We put virtual worlds, whatever it is, objects, characters, bins, and then we make them very magical, and then they're still interacting with us in our physical worlds. And that just very much ties up to all the things I just said before. And also, there is a possibility to have, participatory kind of experience, so multiple people can engage with the same object at the same time, they can play with it, and that forms some kind of scaffolding learning experience too. Scaffolding is also one thing I would continue to say in a bit, and scaffolding just simply means you break information or learning into smaller chunks and you attach it to a structure or some tool, and that makes the kids able to eat it and digest it in smaller bites itself. So that's why we choose AR itself. So when you think about that, we'll also think about the fact that the United States, and I'm just going to focus a bit on the United States. I know this is a global conference, but just bear with me. The United States in particular is a very increasingly diverse environment and country, and such classrooms are getting very much increasingly diverse kids. And I'm not just talking in terms of things that you can see, attributes that you can see. I'm also talking about socioeconomic backgrounds, talking about learning, vocabulary, capacities. I'm thinking about social and emotional aspects of it, like not one kid is the same, right? Everybody's distinct in their individual ways. And schools have this number of kids in these classrooms. And we expect teachers to be able to provide differentiated, individualized learning to each one of those kids or to a group of them into it. So why that into it? So in terms of that, we at MARVL especially, and also the education ecosystem in general, is aware that the way we've been teaching and educating kids is actually very much directed at one particular kind of learner being able to understand and process what's been taught in the class. And so one particular learner from a particular socioeconomic group, from a particular kind of learning skills, whether you're thinking about interpreter learning or not, or you're just thinking about interpretive behavioral changes and stuff like that, and whatever it is. And so what about the other kids? The problem is because we're not effectively providing optimal educations to them, they tend to lag behind and they tend to fall back into it, right? So we're not adequately educating every student that's coming through our education ecosystem. It's the fact. It's a sad fact, but it is what it is into it. And this is not me speaking. I'm not a researcher. This is everybody in the ecosystem understanding this and understanding that this is something that needs to change, right? There's a lot of conversations about it and all. But yes, we know this. This is a problem. But how do we fix it? Do we put that on teachers itself? Do we expect teachers to spend more time prepping for class? Besides, I hope you guys know one teacher personally. Teachers, my opinion, are overworked and underpaid. We don't pay them enough for what they do, period. And so do we expect them to spend extra time prepping so that they can provide that differentiated, individualized learning for each learner? And just a way to explain what the difference between differentiated, individualized learning is, whether it's a group learning or individualized learning per person into it. So when you're thinking about providing special instruction to a group of people, you're thinking about differentiated learning. And one example is ELLs, right? They get pulled aside and educated as a group students. When you think about individualized learning, you're thinking about an example would be kids with disabilities. They would have an individualized education plan, and then they would have that one support person who gives based on what is on their list of what they need to do itself. Do we also expect teachers to spend time after school is over so that they can provide all of this? I think not, right? I think, like I said, we already asked too much of teachers to expect them to go ahead and above and beyond to do that. So what are the solutions can we think about? Tech, I would say. We're in tech conference, right? Tech can be the pathway that we have or should rely on to be able to provide the solutions to the problems that we're seeing in arising in education today itself. But it's not just enough to say tech is a solution. We still have to make sure that what we're doing is effective and actually enables learners to learn, and you can actually track their learning outcomes and know that it's good itself and all. So there is what we call an opportunity gap, right? There is kids who need our help. Their district and schools would love to be able to ensure that they can provide that optimal education to the schools and everything itself. So how do we do that, right? How do we get to where we need to go itself? And all. So the fun thing is COVID happened 2 years ago, and sometimes I still kind of think it's last year. I'm terrible with dates, but it was 2 years ago, right? And if you remember the early stages of COVID, where everything was moving virtual, it was, I can't curse, but you can imagine what I'm trying to say. It was not very good. It was just chaos, right? There's a lot of sink and swim attitudes, right? Teachers, everyone's like, how do we do this, whatever it is? And that created a very unique opportunities because teachers, administrators were not receptive to technologies that they had been dragging themselves for 5-10 years to do, even though they knew that they should do it, but just because the ecosystem is that way. So there's that one. So that was more receptions to adopting technology would led to increased adoption itself. There's also something we call the mass exodus. Like I said, teachers are overworked and underpaid, and over the pandemic, they realized that they don't have to do it any longer, and mass of them left, and these teachers are not coming back. Now, before COVID, there was already teacher shortages, right? We're already didn't have enough teachers to each kid into it. And so now with COVID, you have less teachers, and then you have more students in the classroom into it. So that's also another added problem that you have to solve in itself. And then you have the third one, which was the fact that we are in post-COVID recovery stage. That's what has been thrown out. But however that word is, however the new world post-COVID is, one thing that we know is that we are not returning back to how it was before COVID. But how does that look? I don't know, right? But the thing that we do know is there's an opportunity window, and we must act now. Now is the time we must act in itself. So how do you create education products for greater equity and efficacy? If there's anything that you should take away from this, is that all of us here are either creators or interested in creating or whatever it is into it. You want to make sure that you put in two things in your mind. First, that whatever you created must address the inequities that is in the education system, and it must be effective. And two, you must also address the fact that schools and teachers have to provide that differentiated, individualized learning in itself, right? And why is this a thing, right? Why is this a thing in itself? Even if we can find one teacher who goes above and beyond, overextend themselves to be superhuman and a superior to every single thing, do we expect every one of them to? I'm not very much sure we can do that. I'll go back. So one of the things that we say is tech skills people do not, right? Not every single teacher can be that superhuman, but we can provide technology in a way that can scale as fast as we can into it. And then we can leverage tech in order to plug those inadequacies that we can see into it. So we know this, we're in a unique junction in time, right? COVID made everything worse. Schools and teachers and administrators are more ready right now for solutions that you could provide to the issues they've been solving into it. And so what are you going to do? And whatever you're going to do, how are you making sure that you're addressing the problems that you recognize, and you're also not creating more problems in itself? And so that's one of the things that I do want you to put in your mind into it, right? Think about whatever you create and whatever you have in your mind into it, and think about how am I making things easier into it. We talk about one-on-one model, right? Whatever you're creating, you want to make sure that it's one thing the teacher's already doing itself, and the other thing is one step up. You want to make sure that it's one step better than what teachers are already doing. And the last one is 1 hour. It must take teachers exactly 1 hour to be able to learn your new technology in order to integrate it. If it's beyond that, nobody's going to use that. And again, AR nextly fits into it. So I'm going to talk about what we do with MARVL very much briefly, so we can go into Q&A. So at MARVL, what we do is augmented reality language acquisition and curriculum support in AR into it. Wonderful Kids is an ELLs. ELLs are kids that have to learn English as they start school in order to learn the classroom content. Some ELLs are mischaracterized, so they have to learn whatever is assumed as their own language in order to learn English, in order to learn what the teacher speaks in class. And most teachers speak only English, and so they struggle, right? It's no-brainer into it. And we want to fix that. We want to provide a solution that integrates into the classroom, that provides that scaffolding support. We have virtual bins that help provide definitions and demonstrate instructions and take kids into activities all around it. We also provide opportunities for teachers, and in particular parents. We're very big in having parents also learn with the children, or younger students, because if a kid is an ELL, the parent is also an ELL into it. And like I said, kids need scaffolding input. The parents can provide the bilingual support that you also need in their own language, but you can also learn English alongside with them into it. And like I said, COVID also made things worse. It made things very good, but it also made things very worse, as most issues in life are into it. What we solve is there are not enough resources, period. And not just in the US, but also globally. There's some languages don't even have resources at all. It still boggles my mind today that Asian Creole kids don't have even bilingual text, like literature text that they can read. There's a lot in Spanish, but there's not a lot of languages. And now with the recent war in town, there are more kids from certain regions coming to the United States, and now schools and districts are beginning to stress themselves out because they don't have resources. They never thought about providing bilingual support to those kids. And I'm like, wait, how long have you telling me you'd never had Ukrainians in your schools before? Russians? Like, come on. But they never had to worry about them because they probably were not the top 3 or top 5 languages in their schools, and now they have to worry about those things into it. Limited home technologies. Not everybody in America has a home computer, but everybody has an access to a smartphone. It might not be the newest smartphone. It might be 5 generations old. It might not be their own. It might be their parents' own. Or it might be a friend, a cousin, a neighbor, or somebody. There is a kid who has access to a smartphone. And that's why we also think AR is a good thing, right? You can use your mobile or tablets to learn, and you don't have to think about buying an extra device to use. And this because we use augmented reality and there is characters that pop up and things like that, kids love it. They love those kind of little things that you might not necessarily think, which makes them more interested to learn and motivated to learn. It makes learning fun for them and all. And then when you start hard gamification into it, then they're competing with the friends, they're competing with stuff, and that's just another level to do it. So our app literally is easy to use. We say as long as a 5-year-old can use it, we're good. That's our baseline. It's a mobile app, works on phones and tablets, Google and App Store, works on old ones. We try as much as possible to do it. We are B2C, B2B right now. And so schools and school districts use us to use. Right now we are card-based, but we're moving away from that to be either with card or without card itself. And that's that. And yeah, so I'm gonna say that join me, I hope, when you're thinking and you're going out. I hope you start to think, even if it's not just about language creation itself, if in anything in education that is like, I wonder if that could work. I hope you take into context the things I've said today, ensuring that the things that you build is effective and helps our kids learn faster. And with that said, thank you very much. My name is Murewa Olubela, and like I said, I'm the co-founder of MARVL. And you can contact us at Murewa or Sara at marvllanguage.com, which is our website. And that's my phone number. And then you can find me afterwards to talk more and all. So thank you very much, everyone. Questions? Yeah. Have a great one, everyone.